Is the situation in Zimbabwe about democracy, or does it involve opposition parties at all? As the internal politics of ZANU-PF and its relationship with the army plays itself out on international media, we discuss the irony of the standoff between the military and the man they still call the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, President Robert Mugabe. Wilf Mbanga is the editor of the Zimbabwean, and he joins me now for more. Wilf, thanks so much for your time. Indeed, it is quite ironic because the standoff that's currently at play and the extent that the talks are going on for so much longer than most people expected have led some to believe that, in fact, President Robert Mugabe is still very much in control of both Zimbabwe and the military.
Well, this is a very bizarre coup. We've got a man who was removed from power earlier this week, going on a Friday to officiate at the graduation ceremony of a state university, and surrounded by armed bodyguards and so on. I mean, it's a bizarre coup. And we've got the guy who's been... Sorry.
Sorry, Wilf. My apologies there. Continue.
No, we were told that, he's been removed from power, and that the army has taken over. They want to put somebody else in. And Mugabe is still dictating the pace of the discussions. And obviously, he's worried about his future, about his family, about his wealth. But he seems to be in the driving seat.
Certainly, and some of the commentary that we're reading is that he seems to not quite like the exit plan that is being put there on the table, that of Emmerson Mnangagwa ceding there to the role. But from your view and from your understanding of the man, having written about the country and having written about him for so long, what do you think the hiccup is?
Well, basically, Mugabe is worried about what will happen to him. He knows Emmerson Mnangagwa is obviously a very angry man right now, having been sacked and demonized, and treated like a criminal. He had to flee the country, to avoid arrest and so on. So Mugabe is worried that Emmerson could put him on trial. Mugabe has been doing all sorts of, illegal things in the past. He knows, he's aware of that. He could be taken to court tomorrow. And so he wants to negotiate an exit package where they won't come after him afterwards. They will allow him to take some of his money out of Zimbabwe, and that his family will be safe. They'll be given safe passage out of Zimbabwe.
I mean, in this situation, in this scenario that's taking so long, could we also possibly see an outcome whereby the military stand down, they release President Robert Mugabe, and he continues in his position at least until the elections there in December and next year?
Well, that's Mugabe's position. He wants to stay on at least until December, when the ZANU-PF party goes to Congress. They have their annual Congress there, which is now an elective Congress, or stay on until he serves his full term in, but June, July next year. But the military obviously, can't accept that. They've taken, it's a brinkmanship now. They've made their move. They can't go back to barracks and keep Mugabe in power. And they have arrested a number of ministers, Mugabe's ministers, including some intelligence officers. The acting head of the CIO, the intelligence unit, has been in custody, but was released yesterday and is now in hospital, having been tortured.
And Wilf, what's your take on this proposed transitional government that is being thrown around, particularly with it being a combination of some ousted leaders, some leaders there from the opposition? I mean, and even Morgan Tsvangirai as the prime minister there. So, in your view and from your understanding of how Zimbabwe could work, would this interim transitional government have a fighting chance?
I think it's the best chance for Zimbabwe. Look at what happened a few years ago after 2008, when we had a government of national unity. Things started working. The country, was now back to almost normal. Things fell apart again after Mugabe's party won the elections in 2013. So a national transitional authority would seem to be the answer. It would stabilize the situation. It would give a comforting factor to the business community. It would help the international community to re-engage with Zimbabwe, which is at the moment an international pariah state.
And Wilf, if this standoff continues to go on, who is it likely to favor? Who holds the upper hand the longer it goes on?
Well, at the moment, ZANU-PF has got all the cards. They control the voter registration. They control the army, the police, and everything else. So we do need a period of calming everybody down. The situation there is tense. There is polarization, very serious polarization. We need to have a period where we can get the country to work again. Everything has been damaged. The infrastructure is damaged. Companies have closed. Many companies have closed down. We've got 90% unemployment in the country. So what we need right now is to get our factories working, getting hospitals, working, getting a transport system working, the railways, running again. All the basic, infrastructure back to where we were back in 1980. And then, and only then, can we then have elections after having cleaned up the voters' roll, having, made peace between the various political parties.
And so the SADC, or Zimbabwe's Congress of Trade Unions, today issued a statement asking for SADC to essentially allow Zimbabwe to sort out its own problems, to back down. Why do you think the trade unions are so opposed to external help?
Well, Zimbabweans have been disappointed by SADC and the African Union, which they both regard as a club, or clubs of dictators. You remember in 2008, more than 200 people were murdered. Hundreds of people were displaced, became homeless, and SADC decided it wasn't a crisis. That's when Mbeki made his famous statement, what's happening in Zimbabwe is not a crisis, whereas people were screaming for outside intervention. And this time, one man has lost his job, and SADC now sees it as a crisis. There is an emergency meeting in Botswana. They're now going to have another meeting of the heads of state on Sunday, and so on. Why? Where's the crisis? People haven't died. It's only one man who's lost his job.
And Wilf, given your history as the editor there of the Zimbabwean, I suppose you're looking at the situation as a positive for media freedom.
Well, so far it's looking good. In the past, foreign journalists have not been allowed in Zimbabwe without a permit. Right now, everybody's in there. CNN, BBC, you name it, SABC, ENCA, they're all in there, filing like crazy. And nobody's stopping them. So this is really good news. And if they can maintain that, then, they will get a lot of support.
Well, Wilf, we'll leave it there. We'll certainly catch up with you as developments unfold. That was Wilf Mbanga, who is the editor of the Zimbabwean